Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to a brand new installment of, or I should say, the very first installment of Valley of the Nerds, the podcast formerly known as the Nerdlot. My name is Manny.
And my name is Brandon.
And my name is Alex.
And we are the Valley of the
Nerd. I guess we didn't really think about that second part. How are we going to flip it over from Nerdlot to Valley of the Nerds?
We're off to a great start. But anyway, it's my fault. I didn't.
No, I guess people will know it's us now after a shitty intro. They're like, "Yep, that's them."
Definitely. Well, it's us. We are formerly the Nerdlot, but we've made some changes. We're starting fresh, and we are now the Valley of the Nerds. The reason we chose that name is because, well, we are nerds. All right, we're huge geeks. And we're all from the San Fernando Valley, the Valley. Okay. All right. That said, what do we have in store for today?
Today we have a few different topics. We're going to get into just a little bit banter, just a little bit of intro, and then we're going to get into our MCU check-in. We're going to talk about WandaVision, the #1 show in the world, and the #1 show in our hearts. And then we're going to have a brand new segment, which we didn't get to in the Nerdlot. We're going to talk about beer. We're going to bring on a special guest to talk about that, and then we're going to come up with our show recommendations. So a somewhat similar show with a little bit of a new feel, and where it's going to be very straightforward today. So ideally.
All right. I like the addition of beer because, well, everybody knows that when we recorded these things, we were already drinking anyway.
Yeah, we mentioned it in like passing, but we never really had a segment focused on it. And this one's going to be a little more focused on it. And kind of like, what kind of beer should you be drinking when you're binging? Because that's what we're all doing now. I don't want to say new normal. So that's what we're doing now.
Well, this has been normal for me since I turned 21. I'll just let you know.
Turn 21 or a little before that?
Maybe before. But the only difference now is that I can actually afford good beer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. No more. And if I drink Bud Light, it's because I want to drink 14 of them and feel like a champ.
Or you're at a Mexican party.
Or on a golf course.
All right.
But hey, look, and you said you mentioned the San Fernando Valley. I just wanted to hit home. Like the Valley is an important thing to all of us. We're all raised there. We have family that lives there. We have friends that are there. So to pay homage to that in our name, it's pretty cool and exciting. And hopefully we can get some businesses from the Valley as guests and get a little more Valley centric with some of our stuff. But I just want to mention that we're all from the Valley. We all love it, despite not all of us living in it. It's still home.
Definitely.
But let's transition over to our MCU check-in. So enough boring stuff about the Valley, and people from not the Valley are like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I thought this was Valley of the Nerds. So Alex, I'm going to flip it over to you, man, because you are our segment recap guru.
Okay.
Without giving away too many spoilers.
Ooh, that's going to be tough.
It is going to be a little tough. But I guess we don't really know too much yet about WandaVision. And we know some, but we don't know everything. Give me your recap of the first 6 episodes, because we're now 6 episodes in. So what do you think? Yeah, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking they've done a fantastic job of building the universe out and making pieces connect. WandaVision, as you know, started out as a 1950s sitcom. You know, your classic Lucy and Desi show, even in black and white. And they live in this what appears to be a perfect sitcom world. And each episode, as it is progressed, has gone into a different decade. We had our 60s styles, we had our 70s, 80s, and then 90s was our last episode. And in each episode, though, what we do is we learn more and more about Wanda, and we learn more and more about the universe that it looks like she has created. Maybe the purpose and the reason of why she's created it. And you get the sense that she's done it because she's had some sort of very traumatic loss, as you know, and is trying to create what is the perfect world, right? And when we think of ourselves as kids and the shows that we used to watch, they always presented sort of this perfect family and this perfect place. And that's what she's been trying to do this whole time. in about, what was it, episode, and you guys will have to correct me here, I think it was either episode 2, possibly 3, we saw a little bit behind the scenes. We see that things aren't as perfect as Wanda would like us to believe, or she would like to believe. There are other forces at work that are actually trying to get into this town, this bubble, actually, I should say, that she has created, and figure out exactly why Wanda is doing what she is doing. Unfortunately, there are some folks that are trapped in this world. We don't know how they got there, but they are all playing a part. And unfortunately, they are stuck. They cannot leave the town of, is it Westview? Westview, New Jersey. And they are desperately trying to escape, but they're also being controlled by Wanda and her immense power. So that's where we're sitting. That's kind of the universe that we're in right now.
Man, that was probably the best spoiler-free review I've ever read about WandaVision. And I think we can take off the spoiler training wheels now, right? So let's get into spoiler zone. So I just wanted to flip that out there. So anybody who hasn't caught up on episode 6, just pause it, watch it, and then come back.
Yes. So now episode 6. Oh my God! In the last episode, the very last minute of the episode, we see somebody from Wanda's past come back. Her brother Pietro, and who died in the Age of Ultron. Right? He's gone. Well, for all intents and purposes, so is Vision. But we know he's still around, or he's come back, I should say. But now Pietro's back, and we don't know how, we don't know why,
or if this is even Pietro.
And even more interestingly enough, he is not the Pietro we're used to seeing from the MCU, but in fact, is he Pietro we know from the X-Men films, right? The one we know better as really as Quicksilver and the classic
One
Quicksilver.
who really is a mutant.
Everyone, a very important piece to add. He is a mutant,
and the son of Magneto, right? Traditional to the comics. And he played by Evan Peters, right? That's where we all like, oh yeah, he was an American Horror Story, so he's weird in this show, man. You can't get a grab. He's only been, he came in late episode 5, right? And then all episode 6, he was in there, and it was a Halloween episode. Very cool seeing all the characters in their old costumes. But he is trippy because, like Alex said, there are some people who are being controlled by Wanda. He is not one of them.
No,
he is not one of them. He can see right past it. He can interact with her on a different level. And
if anything, he's like getting into her psyche as well.
Dude,
he's like dropping some hints in there, like he knows like the real behind the scenes stuff, right? And she kind of looks at him and kind of is like, what are you talking about? And then like we kind of get that idea that he knows the scoop, almost as if he were planted there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if he's pretending to be somebody else, right? I think these next few episodes are going to unveil a little bit more. We have 3 left that are all going to be about an hour. And, you're right. Is this, from the beginning, from the 50s and 60s, you were like, what is going on here? Right. It's just like very bizarre but also fun. Like it's cool to see like Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen like interact and hang out. But then like, I think we're all starting to be Vision's character, right? Like, I got to know more. Like, what's going on here? Like, he is really pushing the limits of. He can't remember who he is beforehand. He has no memory of anything. He knows Wanda's lying to him. So, and like, if you're in Vision's shoes, you don't know anything. The only person you know is lying to you and keeping things for you. So, like, he's going to go out and investigate. And that was telling about this last episode. Vision's arc.
Yeah, it's almost as though Vision is kind of like the vessel for the audience, right? And so, yeah, we're kind of seeing everything through his eyes as learning, but at the same time, we're also getting we're in on the joke already,
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so we're in on the joke. Okay, so one question that I have for you.
Oh, the joke that he's dead?
Yeah. One question I do have for you fellas is this. What was your reaction at the end of episode 5 when Pietro appeared?
I thought it was great. They're building the universe again, and what was even more interesting was that it was the X-Men version.
Yeah.
as opposed to the MCU version. So there was a lot of conversation about them finally bringing X-Men into the MCU, and this might have been the gateway in.
Yeah, we know that was going to happen. That was bound to happen eventually.
Right.
The way that we've always heard all these rumors is that it would happen within the next year or two, possibly. But when I saw Pietro, I damn near jumped up and I was like, "Oh!" And my reaction, and I kid you not, I was yelling at the screen. This is like at midnight because I watched a show as soon as it drops at midnight, and I'm like, "They did it! They effing did it! They finally did it!" And you guys saw my post and all that.
Yep.
And
12:46 a.m.
something like that. And they did it. They finally did it. But now that I watch the following episode, I'm not so sure that's the case.
Right.
So, and I was more of the latter when I saw him, because when I watched it, I picked up on some things that he did initially. Like, he never said, "Hey, it's me, it's Pietro." It's it's one of those things where you like the character, like, and she said it. She's like, "Pietro," and he's like, "Yeah, duh." Like that's
sure,
exactly. And it's like that. It's like the vampire can't be invited. He has to be invited inside your house, and so he's just standing there like waiting to be invited. Like, you can that's what it seemed like to me. Like where he was letting Wanda lead the conversation, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, that's me."
Yeah. Now, the one thing, because there's a lot of Easter eggs in here, right? A lot of there's so many winks at you, like,
This show is for the nerds. It really is.
100%.
My favorite. This show is for people who have been following these movies from the very beginning. But my favorite part of that show was when they were walking around, they were trick or treating, and Wanda turns and just kind of like a blank stare at Pietro and asks, "What happened to your accent?" And then he just looks back and is like, "What happened to yours?" Right? Which is a question that we had.
So great, yeah.
When Infinity War happened, because by that time we were like, "What the?" That was my first thing. What the hell happened to her accent? Where did it go? Right? So there's all these like little winks, and almost like they're like in on it with the audience. They're bringing the audience into the joke of it, kind of thing. And it reminds me like. It's very much breaking the fourth wall, which is what this world that Wanda is creating is doing. So they're like in the TV world, and then occasionally they break the fourth wall where they kind of break into reality for people who are watching it, right, within the show. So all those nods, all those winks, like where they're breaking the fourth wall, that's intentional because it's all part of what they're doing in the show anyway.
I wanted to piggyback on your Easter egg point because they're doing fan service, right? Like, I think we're all like Jimmy Woo a little bit too, right? Like you're saying, we're also living it through vision. We're also like Darcy and Jimmy Woo and like watching it with them. Like episode 4 was kind of cool. We're just like we felt like we're all in a sword, like watching it with them, like learning things as we go. It's really interesting. Like you see like what they're, like on the whiteboard, you had all these characters. You had Jimmy Woo like writing, are they scrolls? What's up with the hexes? Like all the things that all the nerdy videos pointed out the first 3 episodes, like was on that wall. So like you said, they knew that these videos are, that's why they did it episodically, right? They did it very strategically so it could be talked about for the first 5 or 6 episodes. And there's also a lot to uncover, right? Each episode is so intense and has a lot going on. Behind the scenes, especially the slower paced ones. To me, this show has never been boring. I hated that people were saying that it was boring because they just were like not really understanding what was happening.
Well, us, like, we totally grew up with reruns of old TV. We grew up in front of a TV. I'll tell you that, latchkey kids. So we grew up with reruns, a lot of like, stuff from like anywhere from the 50s, like, Leave It to Beaver, all the way through, the stuff in the 90s. Even in the 90s, we were living in real time. But I no time did I feel bored or was I thrown off, because if you kind of understood those kind of TV shows from that era, you understood the pacing, you understood the camera work. That's just how it flowed, right? And so anybody who didn't grow up with that, I can see how they were a little bit lost. I get it. I completely understand. Yeah, so a lot of people by like the 3rd episode, especially people who, I've said this in the past, people who are getting their comic book education through the movies and TV shows will be thrown off as well. For us who have read, like the House of M, things like that, like it kind of it's kind of headed in where we kind of knew it was going to head.
Mhm.
So, but that said, there's still a lot of stuff that's going to surprise us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we're there. It's like, the House of M is like essentially, I don't want to say standalone, but it's its own thing. This is connecting to a universe that already exists that started out independently and then acquired their characters back, essentially. So now they're like I think they're trying to play catch up, and they're like, all right, well, now we can bring in, I think, they're not going to bring in Fantastic Four in this series, but they can. They can bring in every single character. They might, but I don't think it's Reed Richards that
Some people are saying, I think it was you who said that it might be Richards coming in.
I thought
right?
so, but I don't think so anymore.
Really?
It's such a nonchalant way to bring him into the show, right? Like
I don't know.
I think it might be I think it might be Hank McCoy.
Don't discount it. You think it's Hank McCoy?
I think it might be Hank McCoy.
Okay, I don't know, because I was when.
But I wouldn't be mad if it was Richards. I wouldn't be like, oh, fucking Disney.
Well, when Monica Rambeau, when she said, I got a guy on the inside, he's going to help me out with those sort of things. If you really want to get, if nothing's off the table, if they want somebody who can really get into Wanda's head, and I'm talking balls to the wall, not holding back, you may actually have to bring in Charles Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
Or
he's the only one.
Or Jean Grey.
Yeah.
She's technically a little more powerful than Xavier. So it can happen. I that's why I said you can't discount anything.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, it could be Magneto too, because considering that Scarlet Witch is a child of Magneto, right? Going back to the comics. So I think and now with 2 Quicksilvers and a Scarlet Witch, there's something in there. I think you're right, Manny. I don't know if it's going to be this specific show. It might be in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, but I think they're connected, because I think Strange is coming in episode 9 or whatever.
So, that said, we're thinking that maybe Pietro is not the Pietro from a different universe. Okay, let's just say for example. But then
ass and giggles.
But then think about it this way: if somebody's playing tricks on Wanda here, which is my theory here, if somebody is playing tricks on her, how would they know that that's what the Pietro, the Quicksilver from that other universe is like? Unless they were really, really going to start officially tapping into the multiverse.
That is a great question.
I mean, I've really been thinking. I'm telling you, I watched this show at midnight, and I just sit there till about 2:00 in the morning just thinking about this shit. All right, because why the hell not? I can either think about that or coronavirus, whichever one.
Yeah, and they're both going to break your brain.
Yeah, they're both just going to mess me up, right? That said, do you guys think that Pietro is the Pietro from an alternate universe, or do you think it's? And if you think it really is somebody else pretending to be Pietro, who is it? Which will go to that theory that I was going to tell you about a little while ago.
Well, I mean, we've talked about possibly being Mephisto. We've talked about, some other folks being involved. But it is so goddamn interesting that it is this Pietro that they brought in, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
because it has to tie in somehow to the X-Men world. It's universe building. It's universe expanding, I should say. So it has to be something, to your point, why this one? His characteristics, his mannerisms don't resemble the brother that she knows, but the one that we know from the X-Men films. Do
they really resemble the characteristics of the Pietro from the X-Men movies, though? Because he seems different too.
Well, I think so. I think you're right, but I don't know. I don't know.
Also, you do get changed when you come into the Hex, right? If you're a person who crosses over, right? Now, Alex, you said that he seems like a person who's just kind of placed there, which is very possible as well, or manifested there. It could be Wanda thinking it's him and she messed up. I doubt that, because, and I think, they did this to us. They called it back. They showed us the Age of Ultron clip where he died. And then
who was it? Who was it in the Age of Ultron?
Taylor Johnson. It was the
exactly.
original.
Exactly.
Look, it's either it is connected in X-Men in some far away, or they're just messing with us, and they just brought in Evan Peters saying that we're just going to screw with them.
Right. They're just throwing a wrench into it.
And that's the only other scenario.
I don't know. Everything has a plan in this show.
Who so far in the MCU, I'm talking about the movies here, who is capable of playing tricks and getting into people's heads and manipulating?
It's another person who has a show on Disney Plus.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
That handsome fellow.
I think it's Loki.
Oh man, that would be so dope.
I think it's Loki
That would be
because
so dope.
one, they're setting it up for Loki's show. Right now, Loki's show, it does have to do with time travel. If you saw at the end of Endgame, he did create an alternate timeline. Now, the moment he disappeared with the Tesseract, he creates an alternate timeline. And from what we think, when we know, is that in the show, they have to do with him being basically under the control of what's called the TVA,
Time Variance Authority, I think is what it's
right. So
association, you had to pay membership.
So I think Loki is there to kind of get help from Wanda. Now, Loki, because he can time travel, he is very capable of bringing that Mind Stone back and possibly saying, hey, I can really revive Vision with this Mind Stone if you help me get out away from the TVA. Right?
It's funny. I love that theory because let's say it is Mephisto. And what if Loki's behind that? Like, there's endless possibilities with this guy. Damn, that's really good. Alex, do you have any thoughts on that? We have about like 8 minutes left on the.
No, I just love the fact that all of these possibilities exist, and if any of those possibilities were to be the way the show goes, none of us would be disappointed, right?
No, not at all. I mean, any of these are great.
And what we've already seen is that these guys, and by these guys I mean the creative force here for this show and Marvel overall, they've thought this stuff. They're 10 steps ahead.
They have know this thing
exactly. 100%. Yeah. And so whether it's Loki, whether it's Mephisto on his own, whether it's Reed Richards or even Doctor Strange, the fact that all of these possibilities exist are fantastic, and we're all super excited about where they could lead us, and because they could all lead into different things. We have the Doctor Strange and Spider-Man films coming soon, right? Just to
give you an idea of how things can kind of head, and it just makes sense. Now, the showrunner, the head writer for Loki, his name is Michael Waldron. Michael Waldron, and now that show, it's going to have to do with the Time Variance Authority, right?
Yep.
Time travel, all that sort of thing. Michael Waldron,
Owen Wilson,
happens to be the writer for Doctor Strange into the Multitude of Madness, or
multiverse,
sort of thing. The multiverse, right? And so all this stuff is going to tie in. Now, I work with Michael Waldron's wife, so believe me, she doesn't give me anything away because she's legally he can't, and they would get in trouble. She doesn't give me. I'm just going to full disclosure. She does not give me any inside knowledge.
Yeah, because we don't know anything. So
yeah, she doesn't give any inside knowledge. He probably doesn't even tell her anything anyway because he can't. But just some stuff that I've thrown out there in the past, she will kind of like maybe nod or confirming or that sort of, you know what I mean?
If this is going to happen, wink one eye.
Blink twice.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily that. I like I said, I don't want to get them in trouble. So, like, full disclosure, she really does not give me anything, right?
Yep.
But
it's just your interpretations on her body language after what you say.
Well, we have had conversations, and she was the one who did let me know that he did get hired to get Doctor Strange, and that Sam Raimi. I had known about Sam Raimi coming on board about a month before it was officially announced. So I think that's where the connection is. So the connection between Loki, the show, what's going on in there. He's writing Doctor Strange too. It has to do. It's all connected. There's things about the multiverse and Loki, and if Loki comes into WandaVision, then it's going to be a confirmation.
Well, when you think about all the past films of the MCU, right? They've all tied into each other. They've all had moments. They've all had something that built on something, even if it was a small sliver, right? They all had something that connected it to another film and onto the greater universe. So that's clearly their blueprint, And this is the next phase, right? They've always talked about the MCU's having multiple phases. What is this considered? Phase, what is it?
Four.
Phase four?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but it's all the same thing. It all revolves around one piece, one element, etc., and then kind of coming to a big event. And there's no reason why this won't do the same thing. What's great about this, it's going to be spread over film, and it's going to be spread over television as well, right? So that makes it, I think, a lot more fun, and in some ways a bit more accessible.
Well, one good thing about the TV shows out now that we've seen is that the TV shows are great ways for them to kind of like introduce a new concept or a potential new trajectory, right? And that saves time because by the time they release the actual feature film, they don't have to spend too much time on backstory.
No,
Since they
get right to it.
They already kind of set things up with the TV shows, right? And then one thing they did say in the past was that in order to really kind of understand what's going on next, you kind of do have to watch the shows.
Yeah, but this is essentially a movie, right? Like we're getting movie quality stuff.
It's
absolutely.
Like it's a 4-hour movie.
It's crazy. It's crazy. We have about 6 minutes left in this segment. Did you guys want to talk about the commercials or the kids? Kids.
I mean, what aspect? Their kids, the twins?
Yeah, the twins. Because clearly
Billy and Tommy.
Yeah,
whatever.
Wiccan and Speed. And in the comics, these guys are created from pieces of Mephisto's soul, and then they're taken away, which is this is all in House of M. So if you want to read House of M or watch some videos on it,
All right, we can talk about them. We can talk about one of the Easter eggs in the last episode when they were leaving the movie theater. If you saw in the marquee, there were 2 movies listed in the marquee. One of them was
Parent Trap.
The Parent Trap, and the other one was The Incredibles.
Yep.
Right? Now, first of all, The Incredibles, superhero family.
Yep.
Parent Trap has to do with twins, right?
Right.
But The Incredibles, if you think about Dash and Violet, check out their superpowers and the kids, twins in the show.
Yeah.
It's incredibly similar and super and you mentioned The Parent Trap is about two kids wanting to try and get their parents back together, and clearly, Wanda and Vision are going through the motions, and I think I wonder how they're going to keep these kids around. Clearly they're powerful. I wonder, because the last episode was kind of Malcolm in the Middle-ish, right?
Very.
You had, I think
my wife recognized it right away.
She's I think it was Wiccan who has some of Scarlet Witch's abilities in the comics. He's breaking the fourth wall, and when you mentioned that earlier, like he's literally talking to us. So I wonder how they're going to play that. If it's just going to be strictly he's talking to sword agents, or if he's talking to the outside world and he can do things, or he can break this. There's a lot to do here, and that kind of ties into the commercial too, the last commercial, because that shit was super bizarre. The other ones have been kind of low key and hit a little something.
Oh yeah.
But this one was super weird. It was very reminiscent of a late 90s like Go-Gurt or shark commercial. The shark gave the kid the yogurt, and the kid couldn't open it. It was called Yo Magic. He couldn't open it, and then he just fucking died there on the beach. Super dark.
You just watch him starve to death. Yeah.
The kid reminded he reminded you of Wiccan. And then I saw this YouTube video, and I can't remember who it was from, but the way the shark said, dude, and then they cut to how, what's his name? Quicksilver said, dude, and they sounded exactly the same. So I don't know, man. Like they're just throwing us, they're just messing with our minds. And it's so great. It really is.
Yeah. And this is the reason I love their whole method of releasing the episodes. This is why I like it. I think it creates. I miss water cooler talk.
Yeah, me too, man.
Watch one episode and then you have a whole week to process it and think about it, and everybody kind of tends to be on the same pace of watching them. So it creates water cooler talk. Look at this. Whereas Netflix, on the other hand, they release it one after the other, and it gets to a point where every episode is kind of a blur, right?
Yeah. So, you don't know what episode contained what.
And Netflix, it kind of robs us of the feeling of a legitimate or an authentic cliffhanger, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and only season finales. When they release them all at once, and I heard this on the Bill Simmons podcast like last year. They were talking about this kind of stuff and like how, it's a different kind of reaction. It's really different. I'm glad Disney's doing the episodic stuff because it gives us talks, gives us theories, it gives us, and I think the writers can listen to our theories and be like, hey, I like that. Maybe we can do that next season. Like, it just gives people a chance to think a little more freely.
Well, I know Paul Bettany. He did an interview recently. He said,
"Oh,
that,
you know him."
No, he did an interview. But Paul Bettany, he did an interview saying that like he was very impressed by some of the fan theories that are coming out there, and some of them have actually been very accurate to the point where he says some of these guys need to be hired by Marvel, right?
And he's talking about us, right?
Well, no, probably not. No, but but they do pretty good. Anyway, I noticed that we have about 2 minutes left. Any final thoughts on, as far as do you think these last 2 episodes? Because I think there's only 2 left, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how are they going to possibly tie all this up?
I don't know. I don't think we can answer that in 2 minutes.
No,
but I do want to ask you this. Who do you think is the because Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany both teased this, right? There is a big, massive star, Luke Skywalker level coming. And it's not Evan Peters. We all know it's not Evan Peters. So who is it? Give me your guess.
I think it's got it. Who?
Xavier. What's his name?
Yeah.
Which one?
What do you mean? Which one?
The newer guy.
Okay.
Oh, really? The what's the kid's name? I can't think of his name.
I
now.
can't think of
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's going to be Xavier. I think it's going to be the full-on kick the door open to the X-Men. I think it has to be. It's the only one that can compete on that level going down that road. The other one that it could be, I think it's possibly Loki, but I'm excited for either one.
I'm putting my money on Doctor Strange. Give me Benedict Cumberbatch, give me Strange. I'll be happy with any of them. I would love Magneto. It would be so dope if it was Ian McKellen, but I think that's it. I think it's going to be Strange, but we'll see.
With that said, let's go ahead. Let's cut to a break real quick, all right? Because when we come back, we're going to go ahead into our beer portion.
Oh, yeah. We'll be right back, guys.
Beer.
All right, perfect. All right, let's end the call and then